So with episode 3 of The Genius Prince, we don't focus on a battle, which is the first time in 3 episodes, but rather we skip the opening, we skip the ending, and we just have a lot of content in terms of learning more about Wayne's kind of like school life, which definitely got teased in last week's episode. The fact that he was, number 1 and kind of had to get like blacked out was just awesome to learn after seeing the brutality that man could unleash when you do talk down to Ninym. But the idea of seeing someone who was obviously very close to him back in the day get revealed in the episode in present day, dropping a marriage proposal and then casually dropping the, hey, we're gonna overthrow the empire. And at first I was like, wow, that's kind of odd, because if they were really close at school, why would she out of the blue come and just, basically kind of force his hand into waging a giant war? I was like, yeah, he's had a lot of victories as of late, but I was wondering if there was going to be that extra element to kind of like tie that bow and say, okay, this was really well thought out. And then the end of the episode came in and we get the kind of confirmation that Wayne himself kind of alluded that this was okay, that, he's not going to go out of his way to help her take what she wants. But as she kind of forces his hand and he can't escape from it, well, at that point, he of course will lend her his intelligent mind. And I think that's such an interesting way to go about a character who very much is selfish. He is. Like, I think if you were to ask him, is he? In terms of, like, was it a closed-in environment he didn't have to put on a face? He would say, absolutely. I want to be someone who can lay on the couch all day, who could probably marry Ninym, who could just do what he wants. But he's also respectable, and he does what he needs to in order to get the job done, even though he doesn't want said job. And I think it's going to be interesting because the idea of like how he explains cultural things, I love the analogy of like, hey, back in the day, people used to eat with their hands, so why do we all eat with a fork and a spoon and a knife now? Well, because eventually everyone started doing it. So even though currently you're not fit for the throne, as they'll probably say, if you take it and prove them wrong, eventually they will look at you not because you're some woman who can't sit on the throne, but rather you're the most capable out of all your siblings. And I thought it was such a great way to kind of like drop a bombshell after bombshell after bombshell, but just have it conclude in 3 episodes feeling like, goddamn, this show's impressed me more with its military and kind of like strategic landscape more than most shows out there. Not all, I'm not going to go that far, but just in terms of comparing like the way they do casual history lessons, which I love the fact that his little sister is constantly getting taught things about their history. So when the viewer's listening in or Wayne himself is telling her about things that have went down, it just is a natural info dump without it feeling like exposition for the sake of just kind of tying up the loose ends so you kind of understand what's going on. Most importantly, the present day storyline is what matters most for the viewer, but getting more confirmation of how things went down, how like different sections of the country were all joining up against one, and then ultimately they had some unexpected help, which then forced basically a cornered animal into a victory. It's just really cool to see all those little details. But the thing that really sells it is that Loa and just everything that went down in that situation. I was so confused watching like half this episode to then finally when they jump out of the box after, giving her clothes of the culture and how they have such great chemistry. I love Ninym and her, just how like they're always like glaring at each other, but they have such a cute connection. And the fact that, it's just so opposite because Nim's someone who she has confidence, but she also has like this slight embarrassment side where Loa's just kind of like, hey, listen, we're going to go have these serious talks in the bass and, you're just going to kind of accept it. And I love the idea that Ninym and especially Wayne, you can tell they are meant to be together. Like they clearly love the other, but given political stances and where they came from, basically they can't ever get married, which is probably another big reason why he doesn't want more and more authority on his shoulders because he really can't follow his heart. I mean, it's very clear that Ninym is his heart. But when she dropped the information that she's okay not being his wife or anything like that because that means like everything to her, I thought it was just such like a beautiful way to kind of cement their relationship because within the first episode, you got a taste that this wasn't a harem, right? This wasn't a bunch of love interests where, the fandom's going to be divided on who he should end up with or this or that. Like, there's obviously going to be people saying, oh, I like X person better. But in terms of the writing, it's crystal clear who my man likes. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that it doesn't feel like they're baiting you in for just simple anime gimmicks. They're not baiting you in saying like, oh, here's a new pretty anime character. Let's get the fandom riled up and so we can sell more merchandise in terms of who he's going to end up with. I mean, it was established within pretty much the first episode. The second episode cements it 100%. And the third episode, if you still didn't get it, beats you over the head with a sledgehammer on who my man likes. And the fact that you can have like a marriage get brought up and it not feel like forced drama. You don't see Nim, sulking in the corner. She knows how it's going to be. She knows eventually there'll come a point where he probably does marry someone. But the fact that she knows how he feels and he knows how she feels, the fact that there isn't this like forced drama between them, they probably wish things were different, and he's probably going to try to find a way to make things different. But the fact that it's not like this convoluted mess, just so we can have an arc of 3 to 4 episodes, she gets grumpy because an old high school sweetheart comes in and wants to marry. No, the whole focus is basically like, okay, we're going to launch war on the Empire, and of course he's going to try to scheme his way out of it, but if his back's against a wall, he's going to have to use the military tactics we've seen over the past couple episodes and lead her to victory. And I thought it was just so cool to see that, and how I'd argue this is the most interesting episode of all 3, and the first 2 episodes are nothing to shy away from, in my opinion. And something that really caught my eye was the background details, because we've been mostly on the battlefield, and I've loved how they use like little chess pieces showing the troops move in and things like that. But when we got into like the garden or whatever the hell they were doing when Nim and the sister were talking, and you see this beautiful landscape, the trees, the fact that it wasn't just like a bunch of green trees, it felt like we were in the middle of fall. Like there was so many times from the general landscape, which I used in the thumbnail with the princess as well, just like the detail that this show can go into when it's not action oriented is really damn impressive. But I think the absolute star of the production had to be the voice actors on all 3 main characters' side here, because you really got a sense that at face value when they were surrounded by their guards and their loyal followers, you knew something was awry, but they sold their performance so well that they felt like royalty doing what they had to. And then when it came to, private corridors, it was just absolutely fantastic to see how they changed their fluctuation in their vocal tone. I still think Wein is probably like the best casting of the show, but no one feels disposable as it stands. I mean, this show is awesome. It is absolutely fantastic, full of depth, full of substance. And when action's here, like in the past couple of episodes, it feels well thought out, but goddamn, if they needed any more of a reason to hook you in, I think episode 3 did it with the idea of potentially forcing our man into something he doesn't want to do, but also deep down, he would do anything for a friend if they really needed the help. And the fact that the friend in question is taking up his advice of forcing his hand into this entire situation, it's pretty damn fantastic. I mean, this show is awesome. I'm really, really loving it. Loving the way it looks, loving the way it sounds, loving the way it's portraying its story. And even though I like a lot of anime gimmicks in this medium, I'm glad that this anime is shying away from said gimmicks and just being fresh for the medium. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your favorite moment, and how surprising of an episode was this one for you, because it definitely shook me for sure. But let me know your feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.